Hey, Bianca here, and welcome to Teach Like Bianca. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing some engagement and motivation tips for you in your classroom. Now, to give you a little backstory, when I first started teaching, I was an emergency substitute teacher, and I was only doing it for a job. And back then, I was a young 23-year-old, and I had never taken an education classroom. I was actually just getting ready to graduate with my bachelor's degree in journalism. I decided to go in and work as an emergency substitute teacher because I was tired of taking office assistant jobs and work study jobs where I just felt very bored with my time, and I wanted the day to move along a lot quicker. I remember my first classroom, it was a fifth grade classroom, and I remember the time was going by so fast that I couldn't believe it. And I will also just remember being busy and being on my feet the entire time. I even joined my students out at recess because I wanted to build a relationship with them and get to know them a little better outside the classroom. That was 15 years ago, and that was when I thought I would never be a teacher, even that I was a substitute teacher. Now I am in my 10th year teaching middle school, and one way that I was always getting called back as a substitute teacher was because I can hold students' engagement. And the only way that I was holding their engagement, which I didn't tell anybody at the time, but I was telling them stories about what school was like for me, stories about maybe trips I went on or things I did, how college was, my family. I was telling them stories, and that held their engagement. They would want to listen to my stories more than do their work. So I had to, of course, bargain with them. If you do your assignment and get your worksheet done, I'll tell you a story. Or if, we get 90% of the class done and working, I'll use the last 5 minutes of class to tell you a story. Or you can ask me personal questions. And when I was 23, of course I was younger than I am now, 15 years ago. And so they always wanted to know more about me because they thought I was a lot younger than what I looked like. Maybe that was to my advantage, who knows? But these are some things that I have grown and adapted to and worked on and crafted and help hold students' engagement. I feel like I can go into any classroom and engage and motivate students to work. And these are my tips. So tip number one is to tell a story. And you might have heard this before. Teachers are the best storytellers, which is true. But telling a story, I used to use that as a bargain to get students to want to do work. And that was just to tell a story. And when you are telling a story, try to relate the story to things of your age group. For example, I wouldn't tell the same story that I told sophomores in high school that I would tell my third graders. So make sure that you're telling a story that's relatable, and if even for more of the best, try to relate it to the lesson plan. My next tip is give work in smaller amounts. Sometimes teachers would leave packets for me as a substitute teacher, and I would see those packets and I would take them all apart. And I would give student one worksheet at a time. And it's like they felt more accomplished because they felt like they're getting more done because they were working on one worksheet, swap that out, give them the next worksheet. But it was really just the whole packet that was all completed together, and they didn't realize it. Giving the packet by breaking up was way more beneficial by worksheet at a time instead of giving the whole packet. And it's excellent to do, especially for the younger group and kids that have special needs or ELL, because it makes them look like they're completing more when it's actually just the same thing. A packet is like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get this done. They're already setting that up in their mind. But giving those worksheets just one at a time keeps students engaged just a little bit longer. Also try giving one-sided worksheets that can be completed in class just one at a time. Students don't want to think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have homework. So giving those one-sided worksheets that are done in class, very helpful. The next tip is sequencing information with the easiest answers first. If you start an assessment with the hardest questions first, more students are going to feel like they'll never be able to get done, that they're already defeated, that it's just too hard for them. But if you give the easiest answers first, or the easiest questions first, where students can answer the easiest questions, then it's going to be a lot more motivating for students to want to finish work. they feel like they have some wins in already, that they can get this, and that they're almost done with the worksheet. So start with the easiest ones first, and then when you get towards the end of the questions of the worksheet, try to break it up. And also, don't be afraid to cross things out or to circle things that students have to do, because they like, for whatever reason, they like crossing things out because they're like, yeah, we don't have to do that, even though maybe it's something that they've already mastered and they just didn't realize it, or maybe it's something that you're going to work on the next day. So crossing things out, circling things, giving the easiest answers first, always great for motivation. Plus, you don't want students to give up and lose interest altogether. You want them to feel successful in the beginning, and if they get stuck on those hard questions, they're not going to feel those success moments. You want them to see that they achieved the majority of the work already. Tip number 4, let your students turn in unfinished work. If it's not complete, let them turn in. If they only got 2 questions done out of 5 or even out of 10, it's best that you know what they can do versus what they can't do at all. A lot of times students want to just keep their unfinished worksheet or unfinished work inside of their binder or in their backpack because they're not finished with it yet, and they feel like they have to get it done. And sometimes, and in most cases, they're never going to get it done because they have so much going on. They may have deficits that they can't achieve. So having them just turn in the worksheet no matter what feels like they're successful and they're achieving something, they're getting things done. They're not gonna have a missing assignment. See what students really need help on. And instead of them feeling overwhelmed, like they can't finish something, like they can't complete something, they are feeling a little bit more accomplished because they're getting the worksheet turned in. A lot of students, if you ever take a look at their worksheet that they do have half completed, sometimes they have 14 questions out of 20 complete, but still haven't turned it in. Those 14 questions, you can see what they mastered and what they know how to do in terms of the context you're trying to teach them in. So essentially, always grade what a student has done versus what they have not done. You can apply these tips to just a few students in your classroom that might be struggling a little bit. It's going to change the classroom dynamic for them and for your entire class. It's going to build a classroom culture that shows that you want to see students succeed, even if it just means that they're doing the best that they can with what they're given. And it also is going to show that you're differentiating for them and you're differentiating for the entire class without singling any students out. So if you have any more tips that you want to add, go ahead and put them in the comment section. Feel free to like and subscribe if you found something that was helpful for you today. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.